Welcome back to episode 82 of the Disorganized Wizards Club podcast. My name is Alex. I'm here with Adam.
Hello.
And Cam.
Hey.
And we're a group of Ottawa-based players that play just about anything and everything we can qualify for. We talk about decks, tournaments, stories, just about anything to help you and ourselves get better at Magic.
Yeah. Let's get it.
I mean, or as, what is it, as a little pump says? Let's get it.
That little pump is whack.
Dude, that guy's a genius.
I hope this guy hears
genius.
this.
Yeah.
Comes and battles me.
Dude,
He plays Magic.
I was playing,
I beat that guy in a rap battle.
I was playing Standard last night, and I cast Siege Gang, and then immediately Gucci Gang got stuck in my head.
Yeah.
I know. Only one way out of this, and you know what it is.
Yeah.
Can't say it because it's a family show, but
And I had to go home and listen to Gucci Gang a bunch.
Dude, he's so bad.
Who, Siege Gang or Lil Pump?
Probably both.
I think Siege Gang's better than Lil Pump.
Yeah. Oh, that's not close.
Okay.
If we're talking about a comparison, then
Yeah.
it's not close. Little pump. Take a long walk up a short dog, as far as I'm concerned. That guy can pound sand. Whatever. Anyway, enough about bad rap.
all right. Let's talk about some bad Magic then. Team event at CG.
Man,
I mean, I'm sick of these team events.
I'm actually, I didn't think I'd say it, but so this is like the funny thing, because like there's one this weekend too, right?
You're bad, probably.
I don't even,
Safe
I
to
don't
bet.
know. I just,
Toronto coming up is going to be a team thing.
in like, yeah,
Safe
yeah,
to
we
bet
can-
that any given weekend there's probably a team event
Yeah.
somewhere.
okay, so it sucks because from a participant perspective, I'm like, yeah, it's sweet. I think it's kind of better for players. It's fun, and you can always kind of put a crew together, and that's cool.
hmm
And like Avengers style, like I'm putting together a team, and that's awesome. But from a viewing perspective and a sort of metagame analysis perspective, it's awful.
Yeah, you get a bunch
Yeah.
of like garbage results, and you can't know what to trust. And
Like, look at this last weekend. Brendan DeCanio plays Blue-White Historic.
Mhm.
And then Alex told me, I didn't read it, but he said he wrote an article saying it was one of the worst decks he's ever played.
Yeah.
He got second at this tournament.
Yeah.
So if you were just looking at the standard deck list, you're like, wow, another deck with Raph.
yeah,
Just doing well.
I mean, you know what they
False.
say.
Yeah, he went like 1-5 on day 2 and got carried by his teammates all tournament.
Who were playing Delver decks.
One was playing Delver, the other was playing Elves.
Gruesome.
I mean, if you keep up on internet culture at all, you should know if you raff, you lose.
God.
That was actually really good. I'll give you that one. That was good. But yeah, like, so it's very frustrating from a spectator position, right? Like the
We
team
actually
events.
will get some good
and they're hard, like it's-
stuff this weekend, though, because there's a solo standard GP
Yeah.
in Birmingham.
Yeah, that'll be nice.
Yeah.
I'm actually really excited for that.
Me too.
It's on like 8 hours from now, probably.
Yeah, because today
We're recording. Late.
We're recording
on
Friday night.
Our
So
whole
like
recording
day
schedule's been
day
wacky.
one of Legacy has gone by. Day 2 of Legacy is tomorrow, but day 1 of Standard starts tomorrow as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of did. Yeah, I just don't like on team events lately. I was like, like, am I gonna have to? What format am I gonna watch next? I just don't like the roulette of it.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to watch some good Standard games because Standard is wild and crazy right now, and then you
Yeah,
have to watch something dumb like Legacy or Modern. Ugh,
Yeah, like,
sounds horrible.
Yeah.
as much as I enjoy Legacy, they showed Legacy last weekend, in what could have been an interesting standard match. It was just some fool getting Blood Moon back to the Stone Age, It's like,
Yeah.
sweet,
I don't know. I
cool,
just-
man. That was a fun match to watch. Legacy, just so fun and interactive. This guy just got turn 1 Blood Moon.
Maybe I'm just biased, but I just think, right now especially, games of Standard are much more exciting to watch than games of Modern or Legacy.
I agree.
Modern Legacy has never been really that much fun to watch, if we're being honest. Unless you're like an aficionado and invested in the format, I don't think it's that entertaining. Maybe you can say that about just Magic in general, but because I mean, there's a reason Star City Games got rid of their old structure where they had Legacy on Sundays
Yeah,
And-
no one watched it.
because no one watched it.
Yeah.
The viewership rates tanked.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think now, like, it's hard to, like, now when there's Legacy events, it generally has a lot of viewers, but I think that's only because there's
they're
almost no Legacy events.
right. So it's like a novelty now,
Yeah.
which is good. And
Whereas,
I think
if they were more common, I don't think you'd see
No,
the
God,
same
no.
amount of viewership.
people would hate it. Because
Yeah.
it'd just be like, oh, another brainstorm weekend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like,
And speaking of decks that won in the Legacy Open,
Yeah.
top 2 decks were Sultai and Grixis Delver.
yeah, of course. Although, interestingly, a colorless Eldrazi deck did top 8. And that deck kind of had disappeared for some time. Because it was all the rage, right?
Yeah,
Like,
top 8 at a team event, though.
Yeah, right. I know.
And I mean, like, I think it was it 38 teams that made day 2 of the GP of the team event?
Yeah.
38 teams. So
Yeah, I'm just.
all right.
Anyone can sneak in with your bad Legacy deck.
Yeah,
There's like a couple Turbo Depths decks, which doesn't surprise me, in the top 8, and then Food Chain, which is I was saying before we started recording that I think that deck is actually very, very good, underplayed, and very powerful. Like it creates a threat and advantage while putting its combo together. Yeah, it's just a good deck. If you're a Legacy player, you should play more of that deck. That deck's very good. You'll probably just get smashed by 2020, but them's the breaks.
Yeah, but anyway, in Standard though, it was won by Constrictor was the first place deck, which were we talking about it last week? How good that deck was right now?
Literally laughing about it and kept saying all week to Cam, like, dumb green black has no good matchups, stupid deck, don't know how it won, because of like
mocking the streamer we were
watching.
Yeah,
because he was like, stupid deck, like I don't understand how like my white black aggro deck losing this deck. Because it's a good Ballista deck.
Yeah.
Because Ballista plus Snake.
He didn't even try and understand why he was losing. He's just like, yeah, that's not a real deck. I'm not going to care about it.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you can dismiss one of the tier 1 decks of old.
Yeah, we said it last week. Green black's probably good because Walking Ballista is the best creature right now in the format. Maybe the best card. Is it just the best card?
Standard has a lot of best cards right now, and we're not sure which one's the best.
Well, I'll talk about that.
We'll get there. But
like, you know what I mean? It's just such a good, whether it's the best, it's a very good walking Ballista deck. And so it probably just was out there mowing down.
But we did see a lot of white-black vehicles decks do well.
Yeah, there's
a bunch top-8'd,
4.
and then it won the Classic. And I know you guys have a real hate on for this deck. I don't think it's as bad as you guys think it is.
No, I think it's good. I don't think it's actually trash. I just don't like it.
I think
because I don't like its sideboard plan.
I don't know. I haven't I haven't watched a lot of its games play out, so I might be misevaluating this. But from looking at the deck list and the few matches I did see, it seems like a deck that's tricking people into thinking the entire deck is good because it has some incredibly powerful cards. And I'm not convinced that white-black is the best shell for those cards. That's why I exaggeratedly say the deck is trash.
Yeah, I agree that it might not be the best shell, but we also might be in a position that we were in a while back. I can't remember when it was in Standard, where there was just such peaks and valleys among the power level of cards. Do you remember this time where it was like decks had like 3 play sets of cards that were just so powerful, and if you drew them, you won, sort of thing?
Oh yeah, all the power in Standard was focused in like 9 cards.
Right, and I have a feeling that we're in that sort of peak and valley Standard metagame, actually, and that's like kind of what we're going to talk about a bit today too, in the cards that matter, in the sense that like Heart is just so powerful, so like Heart decks are going to do well. Like Toolcraft Exemplar is a 3 power 1-drop.
Yeah,
like there's certain cards that it almost like doesn't matter too much. Like people nitpick about like what knights to play, like the Black Knight or the White Knight, right, in the deck, or like should you add them? And I'm kind of like thinking about it now. I'm like, does it matter? Like yeah, it matters a little, but like the percentage points are probably not that.
Well, it matter. I think you play the Black Knight over the white one every time because you have the majority of your permanents are white.
Yeah, but I meant like,
but
on the Game Pass, I were talking about like cutting stuff to add maybe both, or like try out all these other things, and it's like, yeah, like sure, that's also probably fine. You know what I mean? Like it's probably good enough because like the core strategy of your deck is Heart of Kirin and Karn.
Like that. Yeah, I guess to refine my point, it's that Heart of Kirin is so good and Karn is so good that anything that enables or protects those cards is going to look good. But there are a lot of things that do that, and people haven't explored them all.
Yeah, we just don't know what, like, because Standard's still new.
Yeah.
Because Red-Black also is a deck that can
support those cards. Yeah.
Play, and so, yeah, it's like hard to say. I think, like, my beef was, like, I just watch so many games with White-Black on coverage and on stream and, like, in person where it just felt like the sideboard plan of like Fumigate Settle was so awkward. Like just so awkward sometimes where they just needed to be proactive and they were stuck with Settle in hand and because they had basically pressured their opponent and their opponent's like never attacking ever again until they have like complete control of the game, right? And you're sitting here with Settle and you're like, I wish this was literally a 1-mana 3/2 that I don't have anymore in my deck that I boarded out, right? Like, I don't know. Like it has a lot of answers and I've seen games where they just sort of end up with like a bunch of seal aways and Fumigate and Cast Out in their hand and they just have no pressure and then they just get like steamrolled by, their opponents in the mirror even. I'm saying even in the mirror, like their opponent plays a History of Benalia and just rolls them because they have a bunch of weird answers. So
I don't think any of the white-black decks are playing a card like Seal Away, but I get what you're saying.
yeah, well, they were. Like
Maybe
a lot of
the
the
first iterations, but none of them are now.
there's some guys on like streaming who have played with them.
I think that's a total mistake. I don't know why you would ever play that card in white-black. That seems terrible.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it has to do with just like a catch-all removal spell that hits everything not hard.
It doesn't hit hard. Why would like that?
I
That
mean,
seems terrible.
Fatal Push and Cast Out for it still.
Yeah, but like if you have Fatal Push and Cast Out, why do you need Seal Away?
Because you can bamboozle them. It hits whatever they crewed with, and then you push the heart.
No, it seems bad, man.
Yeah,
I mean, don't know, like game one, I think you're being proactive and you're being like you're kind of being aggressive, but not really. You can really just grind out your opponent, and your aggressive start forces them to kind of have all these answers, and then you can just take over the game and grind them out with Karn. Whereas, why do you need Seal Away in that kind of strategy?
I'm not defending Seal Away. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like,
Yeah.
I've seen streamers like I'm just saying. You're saying it doesn't exist, but I've seen tons of people play it. So, yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
It might just be that like that's why there's such differing opinions on this white-black deck. There's so many different lists, and some of them are like too pulled in different directions, and so they look very bad. Some of them are more refined. Some of them are only playing black for activating Scrap Heap Scrounger. Some of them are much more black. Like
Some are playing SRAM's expertise.
And you're right, they're all being labeled white-black, and people have wildly different opinions on this collection of wildly different decks. So that makes sense.
I think the SRAM's expertise deck is probably decent.
Yes.
They're servos.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, they're good with Karn.
Yeah. You know what I was wondering the other day? Is a hidden stockpile Karn deck just like too slow? Like
Probably not as Karn.
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know.
Karn's
It's
just
like
busted.
I don't know. Like no one plays Anointed Procession anymore because it's probably too slow.
You
But
can
like,
make 2 Karn guys.
yeah, like is it that unreasonable? Has no one just tried it out, or is it just
It's
way
probably
too?
just that
I
no one's tried
guarantee
it.
no one's tried it.
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't even play Esper, just straight up black white. Yeah.
Yeah, you just play black white tokens.
That's probably busted beyond belief.
You can play Vraska if you wanted.
That's probably
But-
busted beyond belief.
I don't know. Maybe it's too slow. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
Can it beat Heart? Like that's the only thing you need to beat.
Yeah, if you
Can you just play Heart?
if you can kill Heart, it's not too slow.
Well, I'm sure you're playing black white. Play Fatal Push.
Yeah,
Problem solved.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you
Yeah.
can kill the Heart, the tokens deck historically can beat everything else.
I don't know. Food for thought.
But like anyway, yeah. Like I don't know like how much to take the team event from Star City with 4 black white decks in the top 8 as defining when like it's a team event, so it sucks. Like
Yeah.
that's what I was saying. It
I
sucks.
think
I wish I had
the real
more-
test is going to be the GP this weekend.
Yeah, that's going to be huge. Like this GP this weekend is going to be a big defining moment
Yeah.
because there hasn't been something like this yet.
And I mean,
No.
not to knock on the black-white deck, but just as kind of a like meta-analysis thing of SCG events, it's not uncommon for a lot of the frequent SCG players to work together and play the same deck. And because they frequently play SCG and are good players and are all in the same teams, those people that work together all do well with the same deck.
Which is
What happened?
Right.
Yeah.
So like it might like it's that black-white is good, but
I think the deck is obviously good. Like it's fine. Like,
yeah, I'm
it's-
just saying that in that environment when they're all working together, it's either going to put 0 or 4 copies.
I would rather just play green white. Well, actually, I don't know. Would you? Because of Heart, can green? How does green white?
Green
Heart.
Heart plays hard.
No, but how do they beat it?
Oh,
Like how do they kill it?
I don't know. I
Brontodon.
think you
Oh yeah, they play Bronte Boys. Yeah, I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
problem solved.
Never mind. Yeah, green white's great. I was just worried for a sec. I was like, yeah, what if you don't draw Heart? Like, what if you don't draw Heart and they have Heart?
you can block. Yeah, you can kill it with Brontodon, or you can block with your heart.
Well, no, yeah, we do. Never mind. We discussed this
Right,
already.
but for every game that
you
they
play
draw,
you play your Brontodon,
yeah, and you crew yours.
crew your heart, and then kill
Yeah.
their heart with your Brontodon and get them. Perfect.
Yeah.
What did you call this deck? You said it earlier.
It's vehicles and dinos. It's the Flintstones deck.
Yeah. Oh yeah, right. Because you were saying you should play Dualcraft Exemplar in your green white aggro deck, and then
And vehicles and dinosaurs.
yeah, just a bunch of guys riding around in vehicles and dinos and
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because we're Death Gorge Scavenger.
And Death Guard Scavengers in there too, also crewing heart and eating scrap heap scroungers. Get out
Yeah.
of here, robots. This is the Stone Age.
Yeah. Dude, okay. 'Cause I wanted to say too in standard, like, actually, I'll wait, and we can when we talk about like cards that matter. I don't know where we're going to talk about that because we have it later. In
Let's
the schedule.
briefly touch on this limited GP in Dallas Fort Worth. Not much to talk about there, but
There's quite a bit to talk about, but
like the main, my segue was into this whole draft
okay.
reading signals thing. Not much to talk about aside from this, but you ruined it.
I mean, yeah.
I didn't watch it.
I didn't watch it.
I had
either.
zero interest in watching it.
so I watched
Cam, take it away. You watched it.
Yeah, I watched day 2 and the top 8 drafts because I didn't want to watch sealed, but drafts are interesting, and I like to see how people approach new draft formats. And despite the constant talk from the commentators that it's a grindier format, it's a slower format, which, it usually was, the top 8 draft was won by an aggro deck. So I think that people who say that this will be a very good draft format are right. There's going to be a bunch of viable archetypes. Control decks will be good. Aggro decks will be good. You can kind of do whatever you want in this draft format. I still differ in opinion with a lot of the commentators on cards like Skin Witch. A lot of people were saying how good that card was. And so I tried to play it. Well, I mean, I did. I played it, and it wasn't great. I think almost anything would have been better. So I'm still not sure what these people are seeing in it.
We talked about this actually for quite a while, and the reason it was good is because against a lot of better players,
Yeah, that's got this weird effect.
it's so frustrating to think about. But this is actually kind of long-winded. So at a GP, a higher level limited, obviously not where you were playing, people just play their
Right.
cards off the top of their library, but
Like day 2 of a GP, top 8 of a GP.
people generally save their removal. They're a lot more stingy with it, right? And they're careful, and people play a little slower, and people, if they can afford to be, are careful. And so Skin Witch is a card that it's like no real downside, I guess, to just include. It's almost like a sideboard card you have in your main deck.
Yeah, that was my impression.
Where, like worst come to worst, it's in my opening hand, crap, like I'll just play it against the aggro deck. So I have a 1/3 blocker for their 2/2s, right? And it's whatever. But then people play a little slower, so like you can get their 2 removal spells they're holding in their hand and then play your threats, like play your like Lyra or whatever bomb. So then it looks really good. Or if it even hits just their last removal spell, which is what happened to Cam, where the one game it was good for him. And then we talked about it, and I was like, well, wouldn't it just a 5-mana 4/4 done the exact same thing?
Yeah, just a creature that they would have spent that removal spell on would have also been fine.
Right.
Because it also uses their mana, not mine.
But then maybe it wouldn't be as good against aggro decks. But
Yeah, but it was narrow.
you said it was never good in the other matches,
Right.
where you
So-
did have to play it on turn 2.
Yeah, I've relegated it to my sideboard for like really grindy mirror like matchups. But I don't think I'll play it main again. I still don't see what pros see in it, but
I don't see it either. I don't think that
Yeah.
the cards.
But they were also talking about how like there was Flame of Kelds going around in packs, and they're like, I haven't been impressed with this. It's like kind of hard to set up. I'm like, yeah. I also find drawing 2 cards really hard to set up. Like,
Yeah, unlimited if you're just trying to smash face.
you
that
just
card's-
play your cards and draw 2. Anyway, so outside of my disagreements with the commentators, the draft thing that you brought up, and I think this is a really good example. It's rare that you find such good examples on video of a concept sort of existed. Like you can just watch it play out. But the concept of reading signals and switching because of signals you've seen was demonstrated multiple times over the drafts on day 2, because there were many drafts where there was a clear signal. Then in the next pick, there was another signal, including a good card that you should take from that color. One example was a Baloth Gorger in green. And then the next 2 picks after that were also packs full of very good green cards. And the commentators said, like, during pick 2, oh, this is the beginning of a green signal. Then in pick 3, all right, this is where we should switch. Because of this Baloth Gorger, we should take it. This is the reinforcing green signal, and it's a good enough card to switch for. And the person drafting didn't switch. And then in picks 4 and 5, the commentators mentioned, like, yeah, look at all these green cards we could have had. No, we can't take them, or we'd have wasted too many picks, and this is really awkward. And, like, look at what we could have had. And so there was multiple examples of, like, and Kenji was the one commentating during this, pointed it out. Like, it's rare that you get to look back at a draft and be like, right there, that pack, that card is the signal and why I should have switched.
Yeah, it's important. It's like a classic. We talked about this, the old adages in Magic, you know. There's one that's don't be married to your first pick, right?
Yeah. And so if you want to go back and watch some drafts and like see if you can notice the signal. I mean, I told you about the Baloth Gorger, but there was a couple others where if you want to see, like, can you notice it and before the commentators start talking about it, and then you get to see, yeah, the player get punished for not switching.
Yeah, if anyone wants to go watch like interesting streams.
Yeah. And it was really weird. I don't know if this was just how people are evaluating the beginning of this format, but in each draft, there was like one color wildly open at the entire table because they showed you like 3 drafts from all over the draft pod, and the same color was open everywhere and nobody was moving in.
Yeah, people probably just
But it was different colors.
maybe
each
it's
draft.
actually, you know what? Maybe it's an aftershock effect from Rivals
maybe.
and Ixalan, right? Because like I assume all of the people that made top 8 listen to our podcast.
Yeah, you can't top it if you don't. So
And so as a result,
congratulations, guys.
we would have we would have encouraged them during the last 2 sets to go all in,
Yeah.
to pick an archetype and stick with it, because that was, even Huey ended up saying that, right? Like when he won Worlds, right? He was like, yeah, it's an archetype where like or this is a format where like you just kind of very early pick an archetype and go, and you just have to commit to it and kind of hope it works out. Like he said this at Worlds, and that's what we would have said. And obviously we said, you know, that's not for every draft format, not for every limited format, but for the last 2 sets, that's sort of how you had to draft. You had to like take your first and second pick and be like, all right,
We're all in.
yeah, we're playing Merfolk, you know, like that's what happened, right? So, I think in Dominaria it probably requires a little more flexibility, and I'm serious. Like maybe it's an aftershock thing that some people forgot that well, in this format, or they didn't know, right? That people are still unsure. Like this format, you don't have to stick in right away to a single archetype and commit fully to it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to play Black White Zombies.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think that's part of it for the limited thing.
So yeah, it was the day 2 I watched, it was actually quite interesting. Outside of the drafts, there were some interesting play patterns where like, Paulo disagreed with someone's play, but like you could tell that they were playing around something Paulo didn't think was worth to play around, and it's interesting hearing him discuss that, like the pros and cons of certain things. And I don't know, if you like limited and you want to watch some drafts, I would recommend day 2 of this GP.
Yeah, that's because that's rare that WotC has solid coverage.
Yes.
And solid.
Between Kenji and Paulo, it felt like there was actual commentary.
Yeah, that's rare. So that's good.
I think especially when it comes to limited, Kenji is very good at
Well,
understanding formats.
all
Because
he
I
got.
mean, all he does is draft on
Yeah.
on Twitch.
That's all. Yeah, that's it.
All day, every day.
Yeah, I mean, he did
So-
it for literally a year straight, where he just drafted for like 10 hours a day every single day.
That's still what he does, man.
No, but I'm saying he did one of those like he was the first person to do the 365 thing for Magic.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, that like Caleb ended up doing and all that. Yeah, that was when he was always wearing that dumb hat. Do you remember the Viking helmet?
Oh, yeah.
The
Okay.
furry Viking helmet? Yeah. That was during his 365 stream, yeah. Yeah.
Right on.
Oh, yeah. That was a good time. This standard GP, though, maybe this is like a good time to talk about cards in standard.
All right, yeah, let's jump to cards that matter in standard with this standard GP on the horizon. So,
How many cards do you think are going to be in the top 8 this weekend?
is it a shock to anyone that 3 of our cards that we're going to mention, Heart of Kiran Karn and Walking Ballista, are all colorless cards that have no colored in their mana cost and can be played in any deck you want?
Fun
Is that a
times,
surprise
man.
to anyone sitting here in this room right now?
Nope. So, yeah, we were going to take some time and sort of talk about, because what kind of made us think of this was last weekend on the podcast, Alex said, yeah, I played in this PPTQ and there was 15 unique decks across 19 players. That's insane. Standard's wild. You can play whatever. And it's still pretty open. Like if you look at the deck dump from the 5.0 lists that we were just looking at before
Yeah.
we started, it's like mono black control,
Yeah,
banned.
and the thing that's interesting is a lot of archetypes that kind of get grouped together, like we were talking about white black, but even if you take something like red black aggro, like there's no consensus among lists at all. Where in previous formats we've had decks like blue black mid range, where there's there's a way to build this deck and you have flex slots. Whereas I've seen red black built with a Inventor's Apprentice and being more aggressive with Hazoret and Rekindling Phoenix. I've seen versions where you're not playing Apprentice, you're not playing Hazoret, you're not playing Phoenix, you're playing Planeswalkers. I've seen versions where you're kind of all in with Fanatical Firebrand and
Oh yeah, I forgot there were
a
versions
very
like that.
more low to the ground versions. Like there's so much variance. Even blue white control. There's decks that are playing Torrential Gearhawk. There's decks that are playing just Teferi as their win con.
There are still some people holding out for Approach.
There's players playing blue white historic with bad cards like Wrath. Like there's no consensus really in a lot of these strategies.
Yeah.
Which is super interesting.
Yeah. So today we're going to try and identify some of the cards that do matter, and no matter what build of the archetype, you have to address and you have to be prepared for.
As maybe something I've noticed, or as a thought here before we jump into specific cards, this kind of chaos between the deck lists, this lack of consensus, is sort of self-maintaining, because you can't tailor your removal if there's no consensus. You can't tailor your threats if there's no consensus between what removal your opponents are playing. Everybody's going to be going all over the place because everyone's like, you can't target anything.
Yeah, you're not sure what the best answer is.
But yeah, basically the one card that is a consensus amongst all these strategies I just rattled off is Karn. I mean, there aren't really many decks in the format currently that don't play Karn.
Yeah, it's a blue-white.
Blue-white plays Karn.
Not all lists.
Not all lists, but like there are all the
Karn's in 50% of lists.
Yeah.
Currently, is
Like
it's not in every deck,
and
but
going
it's
up.
white.
Sorry,
And that's going up.
right? It's going up, but and it's trending up.
Yeah, like green white's playing it. All these weirdo construct decks are playing it.
Yeah.
You're getting it in red black. You're getting it in white black. It's popping up in the not really. It's hard to say constrictor decks because I've seen a lot of constrictors decks now that are the constructs decks.
Yeah.
So I guess those get grouped
Constrictor
together.
decks
But,
have so many cards that are pieces of the puzzle that are better than Karn, like because they have such a synergy based.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, but I mean, if you're playing the constructs version, then yeah, Karn definitely is something you want. But a lot of people are playing it. Obviously, it's insanely good.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said it in spoilers, and I didn't want it to be true. It was like, this card is a problem because it's colorless. And its loyalty so high.
Mhm.
Why would they do this?
You know what I've heard is that maybe there was a design mistake to have it start at 5 loyalty. Because you can minus, like to make like -2, and it's still sticking around. Like if it think about if it started at 4,
Yeah.
like that's a significant difference.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah. Maybe it was a design mistake.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I mean, the design mistake is that it's colorless. And
Yeah, but
it's
I mean,
cheap.
if you want to print a card that's Karn, and I mean,
Yeah, you gotta make it 10 mana. I'm serious.
Yeah.
Look at the last one. Like 7 was fine in standard.
yeah.
7 mana Karn was fine in standard.
Yeah.
You have to. 4 is too good. Anyway, like you're gonna play against Karn.
Yeah.
Like control decks will board into it. Some have it main, some don't play it. But like this makes it awkward for things like even Cam was talking about. Is like you don't know what answers you need for Karn. So Vraska's Contempt's like probably okay. Cast out. Like if you're playing, depends what your removal is. But this is why like the more expensive generic catch-all answers have been common, right? Like cast out, you kind of don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like the problem is like you're like cards like Cast Out and Vraska's Contempt. Like, yeah, okay, yeah, my opponent plays Karn, they take up, they get the worst out of the 2 cards, and then I contempt it. Sure, but like
The next card,
their next Karn is just so much better now.
Yeah.
It's trading 1 for 1 on Karn like isn't even that great.
I mean, you still have to find it, or like you're you play a deck that can attack a Karn better than
Yeah.
they can attack yours. That's the
Yeah.
other option, which is
Yeah.
why like the green-white deck, which brings us to one of our other best cards in Standard, which is Heart of Kirin,
Yeah.
which is why you need to play that card almost every deck is playing it. You know, there are, again, green-black Constrictor decks that play it.
Guess what card it pairs very well with?
Karn.
Like,
Yeah, this is a card in Standard that if you're going to play Standard, you're going to face because it's in multiple decks. It's in green-white.
Yeah.
It's in basically every
red,
deck.
black, white, black.
Yeah, every deck that can play it plays it.
Do you
Yeah.
think we could make a competitive Standard deck? Maybe not super competitive, but I'm content with like tier 2, tier 1.5, whose mana base is like 24 wastes. Karns.
Oh, just as an
Hearts,
experiment?
Scrap Heap Scroungers.
I don't even-
Ballistas.
I don't think you can do that.
Why?
Wastes aren't legal.
Oh, yeah. Right,
You
they
can play
rotate it.
Scryland.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just play colorless lands. You play Scrylands, you play Spire of Industry, you don't take damage off it. You play Aether Hubs, you don't use the energy.
Yeah, then you can have just a 5-color sideboard.
Oh, yeah.
You play that Cataract, the Prism thing that makes 5 of them.
Like, what do we have for removal in
Because it taps
colorless?
for colorless.
Nothing.
I don't
Icy
think-
Manipulator, Blood Tallow Candle.
Yeah, there's no removal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, removal.
Or
asterisk.
being insane. Like, sure.
Right, but it's to demonstrate, it's to prove the point. It's to demonstrate that these these colorless cards are too powerful because I'm playing Blood Tallow Candle as a removal and I'm smashing people.
I don't think.
I don't think you'll smash anyone. I don't think that deck's
No.
smashing
Yeah, because you
anyone.
can't answer their Karn.
Yeah, exactly. But in any case, yeah, these are sort of like the defining cards that make up Standard right now. And I think that's part of a Karn is a huge reason why. CLOA as well. Why Heart is so good.
Well, yeah, because I mean, blue white control has become so popular, and their early removal is seal away.
Yeah, and I mean,
Right.
that's why Karn also like just shot up because Planeswalkers are good against control if they resolve. They have
Yeah.
a hard time dealing with them.
Yeah.
You will get value out of them, like you said, even if they answer them somehow. You know, if they cast out or whatever. The next Karn you play is just better.
Yeah.
So, sort of Karn and Heart of Kirin, like the colorless cards, are so very powerful right now. Do we just start mainboarding Ceremonies Rejection?
Ooh. I opened a foil one out of a showdown pack.
No.
Why not? Cards in every deck.
Yeah.
And so is another card in Standard that's basically in every deck, which is Walking Ballista.
Yeah. I mean, that card's just been incredibly good.
That
pretty much
is
the entire
actually
time it's
the
been in
most
Standard.
played card in Standard, I believe, right? When we were looking
Yeah,
at the
I
numbers,
think so. Yeah.
it's in above 50% of decks.
Yeah.
Because,
It's in way more than 50%. Yeah.
because Karn's in 50, but I think Ballista's in like 75. Like because it's in the Constrictor decks,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which don't always play Karn.
Yeah.
Or sorry, it's only in 52. My bad.
Well, out of like, we're looking at the Moto
Yeah,
50 list,
which
most
has
recent.
like wild random decks in it. But still, that's a huge percent.
Yeah.
Being in half
I want to
of
see
all
these
decks-
percentages from the GP.
Yeah, me too. But
after
being
this
in
weekend.
half of all decks in Standard is wild.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Card's great.
Yeah. That's why you see things like Fatal Push and Abrade, which weren't as high on this list. Abrade definitely not, right, until recently, because of the rise of Heart of Kirin in Standard, right?
Yeah.
So we're starting to see like a Standard metagame shape, and I think it's shaping around the busted colorless problem cards
Shocker.
that sort of just can go in every single deck.
Yeah, it's kind of like how the metagame shaped around Smuggler's Copter.
I remember that.
Remember?
Yeah, that was a bad
the
time.
The good old days.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
My hand was perfect.
I feel
'cause I could
like-
loot.
I feel like this white black deck is similar to Mardu Vehicles in a lot of ways in that sense too. In that it has a very, very powerful 2-drop, a very powerful 4-drop planeswalker. Right? Like
Yeah.
Gideon is Karn and Heart is Copter.
I mean, it doesn't take much for Karn to quote unquote attack for as much as Gideon did. Like, you make a construct and play some other artifacts, it's attacking for 4 or 5.
Yeah. I mean, which is the artifact sitting around.
And it has better mana. Unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
that's
Unbelievable, guys.
Yeah. That's not good. Yeah, I mean, the problem is that every deck sort of wants to find a way to play Karn and win with their Karns. And so this makes cards like Fatal Push also busted in Standard because it kills Karn. Or sorry, it kills Heart of Kirin, right? Which is
Yep.
You either got to be attacking their card or protecting your card from theirs. That's the name of the game, man.
Yeah.
Or you play blue-white control.
Hot
Yeah.
take, I don't think blue-white is going to have another good result until it adds a third color. Because people are playing things like Heart, because people have relearned how to play around Settle.
Agreed. We talked about this, right?
Yeah.
I said that. Did I talk about this on podcast last week that I said blue-white sucks?
I mean, we might know that if we were a bit more organized, but
I don't think so. We talked about how good blue-white was last week. and how it was
No,
played.
I said it sucked.
Oh,
in
you
its
said it
original-
sucked in its current iterations.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. That's right. Okay, I did say that on the podcast.
Until
I wasn't sure
people
if I had the cojones to say it on the podcast before people start flaming me like,
No.
look at all these results, like blue whites everywhere. I'm like, yeah, we'll see about that, because I still think they just get beat down by like Karn,
Yeah.
and Lifecrafters Bestiary, and all these card advantage cards and Heart, which they can't seal away. Like there's just, it's exactly what Cam said. I think they need to splash red or black.
yeah. Not even splash. You can go in on the other color.
Oh yeah, can you?
Yeah. So, as you requested,
Did I requested on the podcast? Man, we are disorganized.
yeah, you requested on the podcast,
Did I do it live?
and then you forgot. But
Yeah, and then you were like, here, I got you all this
Yeah.
piece of paper and there's all these numbers on it. I was like, what is this?
so shout out to Curtis. Him and I spent today.
Doing math.
Yeah, we wrote a Python code that,
Nerd.
so we can do more of this more easily if you guys got questions. But yeah, so we wanted to compare 2-color mana bases to
God
3-color mana bases.
That is nerdy.
Such a nerd.
Yeah, and we're talking about Magic.
Okay, go on.
And so for example, we were looking at like some blue-white control lists, which was playing 6 planes, 7 islands, 10 blue-white duels, and 3 colorless lands, which was a fairly typical mana base. And we were asking like, what is the probability that you have your choice of disallow or settle on turn 4, that you could make double blue or make double white? And it's about 72%. Then we asked if you go to an Esper deck, which like 3 plains, an island, 3 swamps, and like a bunch of duels between the 3 colors, an extra land, but I think that's fine going up to 27. What is the chance that you can have disallow or Vraska's Contempt? So like a similar question, black or blue on 4. And it only goes down to 69. You lose 2%.
So you basically lose a non-relevant percentage.
Right,
in-
or a
across
percentage-
matches that you
or-
would be able to cast your spells.
Right, and this was the first mana base we thought of. This hasn't been tweaked. This is not being affected by mulligan decisions, etc. So at the small cost of adding a land, you unlock all of these powerful black cards. You lose barely any percentage to cast your spells. As the game goes on, your mana gets even better. Yeah, it seems like
Right, that's the thing. Your mana gets better.
Yeah,
There's also the bug lists that we were talking about
Yeah.
too that actually have well, yeah, you can explain it.
yeah. More surprisingly, because I thought maybe a more to compare 2 decks that actually exist, not just an Esper mana base that I came up with. Compared a Sultai Energy Hadana's Climb list to a green-black Constrictor list. And there are some other differences here than just the lands. For example, the Sultai Energy deck is playing Servants, which we kind of considered. But the green-black deck is better at producing single of each color, and the Hadana's Climb is better at producing doubles. So like the green-black deck, 90% of the time can cast Snake on turn 2. And the Sultai can only do it 84% of the time. But if you want to cast Bristling Hydra or Vraska's Contempt on turn 4, Hadana's Climb does it 75% of the time, and Constrictor can only do it 65%. So you lose like 10% playing
That's
Just-
wild.
just
Yeah,
green black.
that's the number that shocked me. That's a
Right.
huge percentage loss.
And like it's a bit smaller for like turn 3. So like the Sultai Energy deck and the green black Constrictor deck can cast Jade Light Ranger on turn 3 at about the same rate. But the Hadana's Climb can do it while also being able to cast Hadana's Climb on 3.
Right.
So I mean the servants help a lot, but yeah, it's crazy that they help that much. Like 10% to cast your double spells on 4.
Yeah, that's a massive difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Standard mana base.
So splashing and going up to even like hard 3 colors, like that Esper list that I was talking about, it's a disallow Vraska's Contempt Fumigate deck. And the mana's fine.
Right, but like the general wisdom lately has been, no, that's bad.
Right.
So
So-
this is what made me think of like, okay, well, let's actually just do the math on
Yeah,
this so we
so
don't have to argue about it.
Faults in our scientific method here is that none of this is only considering colors and amount of lands that make certain colors. We did not consider whether your lands will enter tapped or untapped. Because I mean it makes the math a lot harder, and you can see like a competent player can sequence their land so that they're untapped, hopefully when you need them.
Right. I mean, we already do that with 3 color decks that exist.
Right. So we didn't consider that. This is just raw number of lands that produce colors, but
Yeah. And also, depending on what color what you're playing, like some lands will untapped earlier, while more likely later versus
And you
others.
you can sort that out in how you build your mana base. You'll know which ones, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lesson on factorial growth. The questions about turn 4, like, can you do something on turn 4? We would like run the Python code and it would sit there for about 5 minutes and then spit out an answer. We tried to do one of like, oh, well, you have double white for Fumigate on turn 5. We sat around for like an hour and then we're like, no, we're going home. It didn't finish.
Really?
Yeah. So we're going to try and run it overnight.
Why?
Because it does it like
a billion iterations?
Yeah, it has to do like that much more for turn 5.
Then
Like you think
4.
one turn doesn't matter, but it's everything is times like how many lands are in your deck? Like it's 23 times more, 60 times more, like
Right, okay.
because you get that many, like one more option, one more card drawn is multiplied by anything that card could be over everything that you could have had on turn 4. Like
Insane.
factorial growth is crazy.
All right.
Jeez, that's a lot.
Yeah, if you're looking for some thick numbers,
So
hit up factorials.
Talking about making differences.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, hold on. I just wanted to say, so, because the whole reason this came up was sort of changing control, right? And I think that that's probably where you have to go, because I don't think the current iterations of blue-white, like I said, can beat. I don't know, like.
They're powerful, but they have exploitable weaknesses, which is what we're already seeing people do.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue. I think that blue-white's going to start to fall off. Like, even the team event, like, obviously, which are skewed, like, there wasn't a sort of dominant performance of blue-white, you know, like.
And like, I think if you're playing just blue-white, you have to play some number of settle, but that card low-key sucks.
Yeah. Well, especially if people are starting to play, what's that, Fight with Fire?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they can kick it. Or even like I was playing
Yes,
testing
they
games
can.
against our buddy LP, and like he'd play a Hazaret, and I had settled him previously, so I don't have enough mana to syncopate it. He plays Hazaret, and I don't have a cast out, and he just never attacks me and discards cards, and I die.
Yeah. Like, if people learn how to play around settle, you know, like their decks are built to take advantage of all the extra lands, which I've also seen happen. It's like a huge problem. So I think that they need to move towards, you know,
Something. You could probably splash whatever you want, but
whatever. It doesn't matter. Fatal Push really is probably the best answer out of control, I assume.
push is probably the best right now. A Braid Magma Spray also not bad.
Yeah, I mean, Magma Spray hits Scrounger, but not hard. So it's sort of like, it's a tough call, you know what I mean? Like,
Contempts are probably better because like they're still good in control mirrors.
Yeah, Contempt isn't a dead card in basically any matchup, so that helps.
Yeah.
You still got to get those pesky Teferis now dominating in Modern.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually the only card I put on the list that has colors.
We say that, but there are definitely others.
Yeah, but I mean, we're talking about like the most dominant cards in the format.
I mean, if you want to talk about a card that's changing decks that's got colors, incoming Chain Whirler.
Oh, yeah.
That's a dominant one.
Yeah, man, that card's great.
I think I mean, there's as far as the colored cards in Standard, I mean, there's like a huge swath of them too that I think are going to be issues. Like, Chain Whirler is terrifying. You know what I mean? That's a card that is so powerful, and we're seeing so many experiments on its best home. Like, you were talking about the streamer who was playing I think that's the best red-black version I've seen.
Yeah, red-black minus Inventor's Apprentice playing Soulscar Mage and Chain Whirler, Heart of Kirin.
I think that's the best red-black aggro version I've seen. It seems really good.
He also thinks that.
Yeah, I think he's right. I don't know what streamer is it?
Matthew Folks.
Yeah, I think that...
Yeah, finished second in the Team GP in Europe last weekend or the weekend before.
Oh, really?
Recently, yeah.
Yeah, I think his build... I wanted to get his name because he posted it on his Twitter, right? In case...
He was you remember from Moto, the player that was always top of the trophies, like Yu-Gi-Oh player 1942?
Oh, yeah.
That's him. He changed his handle now, but
Okay.
plays Standard a lot, streams it like every day.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get his name because if people wanted to check his Twitter, he posted a deck list of it, right?
Yeah, or if you want to just watch a good like Magic stream, He's becoming more and more popular. It's Matthew Folks
Because
on Twitch.
that build is very good because it plays hard.
Yeah, shocker.
Um,
Plays Karn.
He even has a glory bringer at the top, which
Yeah.
I'm about that,
Yeah.
Because people act like they forgot about whole glory B. Can't forget about that card
Yeah,
coming at you.
People act like they forgot about Dragon.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
like I think I was gonna say we could probably end up talking about standard. Like,
Yeah, let's move on to difference makers.
fine, I guess. I was gonna say we could just save that.
Now, well, let's get into it. So,
This is, I mean, we have relevant examples from standard here. We can keep mixing it in.
Yeah.
differences that make a difference.
So this is a topic in like the theory of card evaluation. And I suppose card design as well. Like, should cards start with 4 or 5 loyalty? These like minor things make a massive difference. And so that the things we're going to be talking about are a bit more subtle, but these are kind of motivated by common card analysis mistakes that we've seen newer players make repeatedly.
And this sort of relates also to this kind of fluctuation in peaks and valleys theory about how standard is currently shaped anyway, right? About like, well, what are the cards that actually matter in this deck? Like, what are the cards that make a difference?
Yeah.
Like which ones are filler and like which ones matter. And that's sort of what we were talking about.
Yeah,
like,
it does like Knight of Grace versus Knight of Malice. Is that actually a difference that makes a difference?
Right.
Probably
like,
not.
It's probably not huge. Like the percentage points aren't that different,
Right.
right? Just like adding a third color,
Yeah, adding a third color doesn't change things that much.
right? Like it doesn't actually make that much of a difference, or it does, and you know what I mean.
That,
So
that's a tough one because I think that's a specific example that does make a difference because Knight of Malice crews your heart more consistently than Knight of Grace does.
yeah,
Yeah, right, exactly. But that's the sort of thing, like, that's what this topic is. It's these subtle things that you think don't make a difference, but do. That's like the common mistake, is that
I
people
get-
equate
okay.
two cards that are very different.
okay. I guess a better example would be the difference between playing like Inventor's Apprentice versus Soulscar Mage in Red Black.
Okay.
It's not the soul of the deck,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, or the heart of the deck, right? Like it's not the reason you play the deck,
Uh,
right? The cards that we're talking about that matter in standard or in Red Black are unlicensed disintegration, right? That's the reason you play Red Black.
yeah.
Right? The reason you play White Black is Toolcraft Exemplar, right? These are the cards that make a difference and are sort of like the defining sets and standards. And so we were going to talk a bit about how to tell what cards are the ones that matter and make a difference, and like sort of how to evaluate and judge them in that way. But also like
We just got kind of a smattering of examples of small differences that actually
Yeah.
make a large difference in the card's power level.
I think the best way to go about this is to just provide the examples.
Yeah, just go
because
down this
those are
list we came up with.
yeah, well, I mean, we didn't talk about Hazoret, talking about the best cards in standard.
Yeah, so if we want to keep talking about standard,
Deck
Ronus versus
busted out of
Hazoret.
control.
I don't think it's one of the best cards anymore, though.
I still think that card is on face one of the most powerful cards in standard.
Sure, in a vacuum.
yeah.
I don't think in the context of the current standard format, I don't think it's really as good as it. Well, it's definitely not as good as it used to be.
Why?
Yeah, it got nerfed.
What cards do you... Why do you
Man.
think it's not as good as it used to be?
It's because of how it lines up against the format.
That's, yeah, which parts of the format? Because if you say the white removal, like my counterpoint would be,
Well, like
in
the
testing,
white,
my opponents have learned to play around that white removal and still kill me with it. And it's still terrifying.
I don't know. I think the white removal is one of the biggest aspects of it.
Like, cast out is a worse answer to Hazoret than Vraska's Contempt was. And if they know how to play around everything else, nothing else kills it.
Yeah, that card's still a problem.
And you have to
Can
cast out their
confirm played
Chandras.
against it last time I played, and I was like, oh yeah.
Okay, so you played against it in Ottawa. I think as a format as a whole, like look at the Moto results, man. Like it's not like
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. I'm just taking actual info. But if you disagree,
Isn't Mono Red still like one of the most popular decks on Moto? Like, according
like,
to MTG Goldfish, it's still up there.
Moto is,
It's the most played deck.
yeah, because it's Moto though.
Okay, so if Ottawa doesn't count and Moto doesn't count and Team GBs don't count,
All right,
where's
what?
Magic?
Okay, man. We'll move on. I think because white has some of the best removal and it's very heavily played in the format right now, I think it lines up very bad against the format.
Yeah, I mean, you could. Anyway, so these differences that make a difference, some of these examples that we had, as I said, they're kind of all over the place. But maybe one. This kind of was a thing last limited format that we can kind of have an example from. So we talked about how the 1/1s for one were like we thought they were going to be bad because in Ixalan Unlimited, right? Remember we said don't play them, and then we had to rescind our statements.
Yeah,
because they did other things. But in general, 1/1s for one are like not playable, and it's because they're not worth a card. But a lot of people like. So the example I came up with is, say, in Dominaria, there was a card that was a 2-mana 2/2, and it had kicker for 1. If you kicked it, it makes a 1/1 when it enters.
Yeah.
That card would be nuts. It would just be Sap Herd, every my Sap Herd, and that card is very good.
Yeah.
But both cards, both that and, say, I don't know, some flyer, are 1/1s for 1 mana. So, like, what's the difference between these? What's the difference that's making a difference here? Why is one playable and one not? And it's just the cost of a card. Like, you don't have to spend a draw step drawing a 1/1 when you're playing Sap Herd. And so a lot of these are kind of focused around having to draw cards out of your deck. I think this is one of the most, not the most, but one of the misunderstood resources in Magic, the tempo aspect of having to draw cards out of your deck. Like, people often mess up. I've seen people compare Run Aground and Depths of Desire is the most common example I can think of. People not understanding, like, why would I play Run Aground if it costs 4 if they both just bounce a creature? Because Run Aground also denies your opponent a draw step.
Yeah.
Whereas Depths of Desire, like, it's still in their hand. And they can get to draw a fresh card anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Even elaborating on this, another thing is a friend of ours was building a sealed deck. And I forget the name. Llanowar something. Envoy Scout. It's the 2-mana 1/3 from Dominaria that you can tap it and put a land from your hand into play.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a Sengir Pureblood and thought, this can help me ramp to that Pureblood. But it actually can't, because like 6 and 7 drops aren't gated by how fast you can play lands out of your hand. They're gated by, like, unless you kept 7 lands in hand, which you didn't because you have this 2-drop. They're gated by how fast you can draw 6 or 7 lands out of your deck. And this card doesn't speed that up at all. Whereas things like Thunderherd Migration, Grow from the Ashes, they draw lands out of your deck for you.
Yeah.
So like that's a big one that wildly changes how a card performs. It's the reason why, like, Teferi's Minus is so powerful, but Unsummon doesn't really see play.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But, I mean, it's hard to compare those two. But, yeah, if you're just comparing, like, tucking a card versus bouncing a card, obviously one, is a lot more powerful. Whereas, they're both bouncing a creature, but, the denying a draw step is worth way more than, like, denying draw step is worth way more than just putting the card back into your opponent's hand.
Yeah. There was, this isn't really a Yu-Gi-Oh podcast, and I'm probably going to get these details wrong, but there was some card I heard about that got almost instant banned as soon as it was tournament legal in Yu-Gi-Oh, because you could, like, play it on your first turn and attack, and if it hit the opposing player, they skipped their next draw step. And then it was comboed together with something that let it attack a bunch of times. So they just only had their opening hand, and that was it. That's nuts. If there's anything like that in Magic, they would never print it, but...
I don't know, man. WotC will print some pretty busted things.
Yeah, they'll probably print it as a 1-mana colorless flyer. If it hits your opponent, they don't draw.
All right, let's talk a little bit about another example, Ronus versus Hazoret.
Yeah, so the other big thing that is commonly, like, misinterpreted is whether you get to choose how your card works or your opponent gets to choose how your card works. And this is things that we've seen on, like, Sword Point Diplomacy, Combustible Gearhulk, Sin Prodder when it was in Standard, combat in general to a minor extent. And so the Ronus versus Hazoret is kind of an example of that. If at ever your cards let your opponent choose how to deal with them, they become much, much worse. Like,
the example was that Hazoret you could just discard. If you want to do nothing, you can just sit there and discard.
Yeah.
And they have to answer it, but you can just choose how you enable Hazoret.
Right. This example that I keep saying, because it's fresh in my memory, and I still go to sleep having nightmares about this Hazoret killing me.
Right. Like,
because my opponent chose how to use it.
Right. And you couldn't do anything about it. Right. Yeah. Whereas the example I was otherwise talking about was, say your opponent has a 2/2 and Ronus.
Yeah.
And you have a Vraska's Contempt, and they want to attack with both. Right. They spend mana to pump the 2/2. now you have an option of punishing them for how they used it, depending on what else is in your hand or how your deck is or whether you want to. So his ability lets opponents respond, I think, in a way that, like, it doesn't have to be a Vraska's Contempt. You just be a Fatal Push and Fatal Push that thing, right? Like, it lets them interact and therefore make a decision with it that Hazard doesn't.
Like I've had games where my opponent has a bunch of other creatures and a Ronus, and so I contempt the Ronus. I've also had games where they have one other creature, and I contempt the other creature because I have another removal spell for the follow-up creature, and so I know I can still keep them off Ronus and make any other Ronus they draw dead.
Right.
And I get to choose to do that to them.
Right, exactly. Whereas they draw another Hazard, they just pitch it and kill you.
Yeah. So a common example, like, I don't think this is an actual card, but people often get tricked by these cards because every mode on the card would be good on its own for one less mana. If you had a 3-mana card that was like your opponent either sacrifices a creature or takes 3 or does whatever. That's like an Edict and a Lightning Strike and a whatever. And people would be like, all those effects are good. So I don't care which one happens because they're all good. But they're like the key point here is that those effects are good when you dictate how they line up and you point them where you need them to go. If your opponent gets to shoot, like, why do you think Mindslaver effects are so strong? It's because your opponent gets to pick what to do with your cards.
Yeah. They get to Fatal Push your own guys. Thoughtseize yourself, which is
that's kind of
whatever else Emrakul did to, make you attack.
But yeah, that's a downside. This creature must attack each turn of Fable.
Yeah.
Because it's removing, it's giving your opponent more choices than you have about that card.
To block or not to block, yeah.
Of
course. And it's just that normally we'd say, of course, giving your opponent options is bad. But this is a kind of subtle option, right? Like the Ronus thing. It's not really a difference in options, more of what each card lets someone do, right? It's just like a semantics thing, but it's just that Hazard is just harder to have a decision against. It's hard to, there is no real decision with Hazard. It's if your opponent knows and plays around things and they get to make decisions with it, it's well, I don't have Vraska's Contempt, so I'm dead.
Yeah. This is why I don't like Settle the Wreckage very much in blue-white, because it lets your opponent choose how you wrath them depending on what they want to do with the rest of their game. If they just wait and use these value creatures, or they wait until they have less cards in hand and then they attack with Bomat so they can refill, or if they have a lot of expensive cards in hand, they have a Glorybringer and a Chandra and they're stuck on lands, they can force you to let them ramp these cards out. They can craft the game to benefit from your removal spell. And there's nothing you can really do about it because you have to settle or you're going to take damage and die. So
yeah,
I don't like the options that Settle gives my opponent. I'm here to play control.
Yeah, I think that's why the Esper option's probably better ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious. I want to try it out with Vraska's Contempt. So I'm not sure exactly what to cut, but I think there's probably a lot of ways you can build it. That's some, if you're opening yourself up to a whole another color.
Yeah, you get a lot of options, a lot of flexibility.
Would you try and be more tap out or try and be more control?
I would tap out for Teferi and that's it. The rest would be, I'd probably still play some number of cast outs just because the flexibility, as we said, is really good with contempts and being able to hit non-land permanents, and the cycling's big.
Are you playing Gear Hulks or?
No.
No.
I've been experimenting with a not Gear Hulk list. I still haven't put enough reps in to know if I like it better. But it's been sweet. You just have answers all the time if you can get them to line up right.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Yeah. It was the nice thing about
Esper probably lines up better.
You might want Gear Hulks and Esper. The very nice thing about playing Gear Hulk is that you can contempt something early and not feel bad about it because there's 7 other contempts in your deck if you need them.
Yeah, playing Gear Hulk playing Vraska's Contempt would push me towards playing Gear Hulk.
But at the same time, if I can just play 4 Contempt, 3 Cast Out, that would also be fine. And then I get more room for Pull from Tomorrow. That card's sweet. Winning games by exiling everybody's, your opponent's lands, all of them with Teferi, that's better than Gear Hulk, so.
Fact.
Yeah, just on an emotional level.
A lot more emotional.
No, win conditions are for suckers.
So Curtis was actually playing this not win, or the only win condition is Teferi Emblem.
AKA not decking yourself.
Not decking yourself, because Teferi can tuck itself, as we mentioned. Against a teenager, a young kid, 12 something at FNM. And he's The kid actually had like a board presence that I had to answer, and I felt really bad. Like I didn't really want to do this because it's so like depressing, but I had to answer his threats, so I had to do it anyway. I just pulled for 12 and exiled everything. It's like I would have tried to let him keep, but I had to.
That's amazing. Is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about on this topic, or do you want to move on to the blow up?
There's some minor things
There's
about
some
like
minor things,
how pump
but-
spells interact, like touch with Moonglove versus coat with Venom.
Yeah, people are probably not even going to remember that.
Not even gonna remember. One is target creature gets +1/+0 in Death Touch.
Okay.
And the other is target creature gets +1/+2 in Death Touch. And they could both cost a single black. And
So one is you, 2 for 1 yourself.
yeah, and I, as a young Magic player, I was bad at the time, thought, like, they looked so similar to me. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, it gives my creature Death Touch. All I could think, like, I was so focused on this kills their big guy. This makes my small guy kill their big guy.
Yeah.
That I thought they were the same card. But one of them I can use in combat because no one's going to block such that they're, like, no one chumps.
Yeah.
Unless the rare case when 2/3s are bouncing off each other. But, like, everyone blocks to trade. And so Coat with Venom will trade just Coat with Venom for their creature. And Moonglove will trade your creature and Moonglove for theirs.
Yeah. One's you, 2 for 1 yourself.
Yeah. So like,
And in limited, this happens a lot. People with like
Yeah.
the pump spells people choose to play, right?
and that's really what a lot of these like differences were, especially the ones of like, does it deny draw steps or not?
Same with the pulling a land from your deck or
Yeah.
putting it from your hand.
Card
into play.
advantage is how many cards are in your library. The less, the more card advantage you have, like as a simplification. And so do these 2 for like those 2 for 1 your opponent or like 1 for 1 your opponent where other spells don't. They're all just card advantage things.
Yeah, like the free 1/1.
Yeah, exactly. If you kick that card and make a 1/1, you now have a 1/1 and 53 cards in your library instead of a 1/1 and 52 cards in your library. And that's huge.
Yeah. Well said.
Okay, what's your blowout?
So the blowout comes from the deck where we were thinking of, well, Curtis was thinking of playing the like tap, put a land into play because he wanted to cast this Sengir Pure Blood, which is like a 7 mana, 4/4, 5/5 something, 7 mana big flyer in
Is
black.
that the rare one that you can like shoot
It's
things?
got an activation for 2 and a red. You do 2 damage to something. And whenever it deals damage to, I think, an opposing creature, it gets like 2 +1/+1 counters or a +1. It gets counters. It gets bigger.
Okay.
So his opponent is like looking at the Sengir Pure Blood. It's a board stall. Like the Sengir's attacking in the air. And he kind of shrugs and he's like, I mean, like, it's a board stall. I got to do it to slow you down. Like, play this Evra. Like, it's a 6 mana 4/4. You can kill it. Like, you have this thing that just mows down creatures. But, like, I can't do nothing. Like, play this go. And then Curtis is like, yeah, that sucks. You had to play a rare into this board. But, like, I get it. Like, you know, shoot it twice, curl my guy, attack you. And then his opponent's like, all right, sweet. Thanks for making your guy bigger. Like, Keldon Overseer, kick it, take your guy, kill you. Couldn't have done it if it wasn't bigger. Because I needed a flyer.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm always a fan when Curtis gets wrecked.
Oh, yeah.
Where did Curtis get wrecked exactly?
At the Wizard's Tower, which has
Oh,
all your
man.
single needs. Check them out at wizardtower.com.
Man, I don't even have to do the ad spot at the end now.
It
'Cause
was a
this
late
is just
one.
the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can
Free
find
shipping in
our podcast
Canada,
there,
podcast there.
articles,
Yeah.
strategy, various other content.
If you also want to get in contact with us, you can find us on Twitter at DWC Podcast 1 or on Facebook, the Disorganized Wizard Club Podcast. Shoot us a message. We always like hearing from listeners. A lot of people messaged us the other week about that mono blue flyer flying list.
We sent out deck lists.
Quite
Yeah.
a few.
We send out lists.
So there's probably some mono blue men flying around.
Yeah. If you're winning with
Sorry
Mono Blue Men,
if you're on the other end.
you're welcome. If you're losing, sorry.
Yeah, that was us. Because our list was actually quite different from a lot of the ones that, like Chad's list was actually quite different from a lot of the ones that we.
Yeah. And he was saying, maybe just as like some advice for tuning decks, he was saying that, yeah, like he told people he was playing mono blue and everybody had a suggestion like, oh, you should add Slitherblade or have you tried this card? Or like this card would be better than that card. And he's just like, no, like, hey, I thought of that. Or like you haven't played with the deck. If you played with the deck, you would know that those are bad suggestions. And I get why you think they might be good, but just play with decks before you try and tune them.
Yeah.
Even silly ones.
That deck, yeah. He did say actually, he goes, yeah, you're right, by the way. He messaged me and he's like, yeah, you're right, by the way, on the podcast, that if people knew what was going on and had any sideboard cards for me, I'm just dead. I'm just actually stone dead. Can never win in a million years, but people just can't dedicate sideboard slots to that deck.
I had so many sideboard slots for that deck, and he still pummeled me.
Yeah, I mean that deck is also can still just cheese wins and just kill you anyway.
Just like a nasty spell pierce here, and you know, it was
and they also play that stupid
disgusting.
Lookouts Dispersal.
So maybe this is
and it's like it really Siren Storm Tamer does a lot more work than you would originally think.
That card is obnoxious
because
in that deck.
You know, the deck usually has just one massive flyer, like a Tempest Djinn or something they suited up with a Curious Obsession. But if they have a Storm Tamer, like you need 2 answers.
1 mana, 1
and they're drawing
shaking my head.
They're drawing 3 cards a turn.
Yeah,
that card's very good.
Yeah, and meanwhile they're putting all this pressure on you and drawing more cards, and it's
Never thought I'd see the day where that card was.
Maybe this is a separate topic because you were saying like people just if they sideboard for it, this deck's dead. But people, maybe it's like too prideful. I don't know. They just refuse to sideboard cards for goofy decks.
I mean, no one's going to respect this deck because you're probably never going to see it again.
There's a green hurricane in Standard.
Yeah.
It would crumple that deck.
Yes. But even like a friend of ours keeps losing to Boggles. He keeps playing Hollow One in Modern and other decks, or like Mardu Pyromancer, and Boggles isn't even a niche deck anymore. He keeps losing to Boggles.
It wins GPs like nonstop.
And we're like, do you have cards that you haven't boarded in the last 5 matchups in your sideboard? Yes. Have you considered playing Crackling Doom? I don't need a sideboard for Boggles. While later,
I respect that.
A while later, loses.
I would rather lose.
I
would rather just scoop as soon as they play a Boggle.
Yeah. But they can just never, ever beat a Crackling Doom. Like, if you're mad you're losing to Boggles.
That's true. They can't beat that card.
Ever.
What? What's Crackling Doom read?
Sacrifice.
Each opponent takes 2 damage, and they sack their creature with the highest power.
With the highest power, man.
Each opponent.
So
Dryad Arbor doesn't save it.
Dryad Arbor doesn't save it. None of the totem.
They sacrifice,
It's sacked.
Get your Crackling Dooms now.
He was already splashing white in...
He's already playing Mardu Pyromancer.
In Pyromancer, or there was white and Hollow One for something. I don't know what. And we're like, you're not even splashing. And you every second day you complain about losing to Boggles. It's the only matchup you complain about. Have you considered a Crackling Doom?
Just put 3 Crackling Dooms.
He's like, I don't know, guys.
There are probably also
silly.
other matchups you might bring them in.
Seems silly.
Yeah, it's not entirely dead. It's not efficient elsewhere.
Although, again, another card that got nerfed.
Yeah.
Crackling Doom.
Can't hit Planeswalkers with it.
That's true.
You used to be able to.
Yeah.
That's
days.
It was one of the few ways I killed Ugin in the day. They'd have to -5 to kill my Goblin Dark Dwellers, and then I'd play another Goblin Dark Dwellers and send the other 2 at Ugin, crackling them.
Just another great colorless card that
that one was
completely unbeatable.
I hated that card so much. If it wasn't for the existence of like Downfall, that format might have been the most miserable format.
Have you ever tried casting it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's sweet.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
It was sweet when you cast it. But like,
you want to keep casting it?
That card is legit incredibly miserable.
Yeah.
As a card. I beat it
also
a lot.
A great way to beat Boggles.
I beat it a lot by playing Morphs. By playing a lot of Death Mist Raptors and Den Protectors face down. And knowing that I was going to get Ugin.
Yeah.
And just being like, whatever, attack you for 2, your turn. And just knowing that like, and hoping that when they ticked up on one of my Morphs to Lightning Bolt it, they would hit the Death Mist Raptor. They always did.
Yeah.
Man, that format was nuts.
Yeah, it was great.
Anyway, let's wrap this up. What haven't I said yet?
I think
however you listen to this podcast,
Oh,
whether it's on
yeah.
iTunes or your podcast app, leave us a review, rate it with your friends. Keep spreading it around. It's the best way to keep this podcast growing. Thanks for listening. We'll catch y'all next week.
Later.